Gosh, these record and play intros are getting a little difficult sometimes. Hi everyone, welcome to this channel. I'll tell you that after this. Yet again, a crappy intro. Hi everyone, my name is David Wallerman. Welcome to this channel, which is all about helping guitar players like us find our voice on the instrument, develop it to tell our own personal musical story. And today is about navigating from this area of the fretboard to this one, or from this one to that one. Basically cover a wide area of the fretboard while remaining musical and while still trying to captivate the audience. It's all about captivating the audience, really. Telling a story, a musical story that has a continuous thread. You don't want to jump from one, segment of the story all the way to the end without bringing the listener in. That's what this is all about. And for that, there are two things that we're going to look at. There is a melodic idea. So the melodic idea's role is to draw the listener into what you're doing. So it's a sentence, basically, a sentence that has, all the rules that a sentence should have to make sense. Subject, verb, adjectives, and all that. And then there's also the octave concept, which is basically bringing someone from here to there while still making sense for him. So let me show you an example. A sentence that tells something is a simple, a simple series of notes, usually in the same area of the fretboard, because if not, it's going to be, there's not much thread that helps the listener connect there. It's going to be something melodic, something you can remember, something you can sing. For example, that would be what I call a sentence. That the role of that, can't remember what I played exactly, but the role of that piece, that musical piece, is to try to draw you in, try to connect with you. So something simple so that we have that connection. And then in my musical piece, there's time involved, right? And I want to bring you from here to maybe another piece of the story that is a little bit higher, maybe something like this. But I want a continuation. I don't want to play something here, and then, although that makes sense, but there is a big gap between that and that, like a big gap of the fretboard. I want to transition smoothly, and that's where we're going to use the octave. So an octave is basically a note. We have a note here on the low E string, a G, for example. The next G that you have would be something like this. These two notes are two Gs. They don't have the same pitch, but they have the same function because they're both have the same note, G and G. These notes are separated by an octave, okay? And if I play an idea, focusing on that octave here, repeat that an octave higher, and an octave higher. There was a continuation there. I didn't start a sentence, in this area of the fretboard. Right? It was the same exact idea. And the connection is made. It's almost like there's an invisible string between what I'm telling you, what I'm communicating musically, and what you're hearing, and I don't want you to lose that thread. Because if you do, at some point, you're going to pay attention to something else. And I want you to pay attention to what I have to say musically. Anyways, no, not necessarily, but kind of. That's the idea, okay? So for that, I have a series of exercises that are going to use that concept of octave. And if you look at the shape of an octave, there are multiple shapes, right, for an octave, but we're going to look at this one we have a note on the low E string. Here I've got that G. So low E string, 3rd fret is G. And the octave that I'm going to use is the one that is played on the 4th string. So I'm going to skip the 5th string to the 4th and 2 frets higher. That's the octave shape that we're going to use. Any notes that you have on the guitar can be played an octave higher if you skip the next string and play it 2 frets higher. So if you have this note right here on the 5th string, 7th fret, an octave higher would be skip the next string, 2 frets higher, 7th fret, 3rd string. I say it all the time, but that's not true. Unless you're Tom Quayle, there is going to be, or other players who use perfect 4th tunings, if you have a shape, so the octave of the shape, you know, spans across 3 strings. If you have a shape that uses strings 3 and 2 together at the same time, that shape is no longer going to be respected because the guitar is tuned in perfect 4ths except between strings 3 and 2. In that case, the shape is no longer going to be 2 frets higher, but 3 frets higher. Okay, so you need to know that. Now that we know that, we're going to start an idea across 3 octaves. We're going to play an idea across 3 octaves. We're going to start it in G. Let's take a look at a scale, for example. Maybe we'll have a 6-note scale. So the beginning of the Ionian scale, we play that on 3 note per string. Just to practice. So you got on the low E string, frets 3, 5, 7. 3, 5, 7 on the 5th string. Okay, so we have that idea. And I'm going to repeat that an octave higher. So the same exact shape. But instead of starting on that G, I'm going to start on this G. And then I'm going to use my shape. This time the shape changes a little bit because strings 3 and 2 are involved together. So this time I'm going to start my idea on the 2nd string, 8th fret. Okay, so that's our scale. The musical statement is this. I know it's a scale, yes, but it's also a sentence. Okay, that's what I have there. And I can descend that. So that was a very simple form of a musical statement. Not super melodic, but still a little bit melodic. But we can now be a little more creative. Maybe we have something like this. A little more melodic. And if I play that idea, repeat it an octave higher, an octave higher. Now that's melodic, and that helps me start the story here. And now I'm in that zone of the fretboard, and I can start a new chapter. See what I did there? So it's a very, very useful, simple device that you can use when you are improvising or composing and you want to go from one area of the fretboard to the next, or you want to buy yourself some time to think about the next idea that you're going to develop. I'm going to play a little bit. I'm going to try to develop in one zone of the fretboard, and once I feel that I don't know what else to say, I'm going to use that, and you'll see how it helps you transition to other things, other ideas, and it buys you time to think about the next part. I'm using a clean tone here, but of course you can use that in high gain. It works great too, but clean tone's cool too. All right, let's play a little bit and see what happens. So it's super useful, and it will allow you, if you kind of free yourself from really thinking about where do I put my fingers, but you really listen, it will allow you to build an organic type of story on the spot, improvise in the true sense on the spot, and really anticipate what you're going to play, think about what you want to say, and execute that on the instrument. I really like it. Also, you should check out my friend Daryl Gable's free course, which really, I've got to admit, this idea was kind of inspired by his free course, which is on pentatonic scales, wide pentatonic scales, and then took that idea and expanded it on the octave thing. But check it out. I'm going to leave the link below as well. Thanks, Daryl, for this cool free course. If this was your first visit, you should subscribe, because every single week 3 videos come out like this one, helping guitar players like you find your voice on the instrument, develop it to tell your own personal musical story. Thanks for watching this. I'll see you next time.